show starts in 1 minute.
Please remember to replace the speaker on the post when you leave the theater. And now, on with the show.
Hello, Chip Cheerio, and welcome to episode 68 of Saturday Matinee Theatre, brought to you by your friends at the Longbox Crusade. We are in jolly old England, in our recording studio set up deep inside Sherwood Forest. I am your host, Jared Ulrich, the yard sale artist, and joining me, as always, is the Little John to my Robin Hood, Pat Sampson, a.k.a. DJ Cristados. How we doing, Cristados?
Yeah, Little John.
What?
Yeah, what? I'm doing pretty good, Jerry, and I'm so excited to be here in Sherwood Forest. I just love the atmosphere. It's really cool. And just watching this episode has inspired me. And I just want to do a little something special for the beginning of this. So if you guys would just bear with me, all right, I think you might enjoy it. So here we go. SMT of LBC podcast so good. The LBC crew begins their quest of watching Robin Hood.
That was incredible. He's got a little guitar.
He's got like a ukulele or something.
Just like at the beginning of the show, and I have things to say about that tonight, Pat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somehow that was better than the violin he played all 39 episodes of Holmes.
That was great.
I had a lot of practice,
You realize you've locked yourself into 38 more of these.
I was thinking about that. I'm like, oh, crap. I got to
That was
had
great.
to do it. I had to do it.
That was freaking great. All right, Jason, get your ukulele ready. I'm about to introduce you. Okay, so also joining me is the ugliest Maid Marian of all time is my older, wiser brother, Jason the Weasel Skull Albrecht. How are we today, Jason?
It smells like wild root and chunky candy bar in here, man. What is going on?
Putting on weight and getting some thick, flourishing hair.
Yeah, you got to make sure, your hair stays in place when you're out there sword fighting, shooting arrows, squaring off against the king's men.
You're right.
Got to have that wild root.
I've been putting the wild root on my beard, so I'm hoping that it'll grow in a little bit thicker. I'll let you guys know.
All right.
Okay. We also have with us our own lovable Friar Tuck. It is Delvin the Darkwood Williams. How do you do, Friar?
I'm doing pretty good, except that, I had this place. It was a nice place, too. It was my dad's place. And then I don't have the place no more.
You've got to kill, Delvin. You've got to kill.
You know what? I should have. Because, that's not right. It was mine. It was my place. Now it ain't my place.
Uh-uh.
So I got to put them in their place. That's what I got to do. That's right.
A lot going on in this episode. Speaking of a lot going on, we have a lot of questions to answer. But first, let's introduce our guest for the very first episode as we go into Sherwood Forest. We could bring on no one else except for the Saturday Matinee Theatre super fan. That is Dave, the Battle
Van Collins. Let me finish that up for you. Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome.
Hello, Dave. Welcome to Sherwood.
Hey, man, I'm good. You didn't ask me how I was doing, but I'll throw that in there. I'm good. I'm kind of like Delvin. Like, I was kicked back, having dinner with my homies and my girl, and some guy just pops up in the middle and starts screaming and yelling about how this is his house. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you got to go see the sheriff, man. Like, you're dead. So we all had a bad day.
From different angles, apparently.
Yeah. I'm actually glad Dave is here with us because it takes me back to when Dave went with us on our import-exporting business. We had the short pants. So I'm thinking short pants might come back here.
Short pants between Flash and this could very well be a possibility. I'm telling you what.
Could be a very real market in Sherwood Forest, man. You guys are going to get in some trouble. I just know it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is our first episode in Sherwood. So I got to ask the guest, and then I'm going to round robin and ask everybody else. What's your first memory of Robin Hood? And what's your favorite iteration of Robin Hood? And Dave, you're the guest, so
yes,
lay it on us.
All right. So I've probably said this before and other things. My mom was a English teacher, and she was very big into classical things. And we had books running out our nose, and I lived in the middle of nowhere, so we had no TV. So my first iteration of Robin Hood was the written words, or the stories themselves, some of my mom's books. And quite frankly, that's probably my favorite iteration, but we got to talk about video. So I hate to do this to you guys, but man, I really love that Fox Robin Hood from Walt Disney.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I think what makes that show so good is not necessarily Robin Hood, but the Sheriff and Prince John. Like that, they're just hilarious. But that's a great iteration. But the stories are second to none. Like, I mean, they're really good. Like, I don't know if you've ever read them or not, but everything I've ever read has been entertaining, and all the ones I read were really old. Like, I mean, they were old when I was a kid. Some of these books had copyright dates in the early 1900s, so it was from a long time back. But yeah, that's my favorite one, man.
Very cool, very cool. Pat, let's toss it to you. What's your first memory of Robin Hood and your favorite version?
Boy, I would have to say, some cartoony stuff, some book. It's just a wide variety of Robin Hood. Back in the day, he was a hero, or just an interesting kind of a guy that either you were playing it out in the schoolyard or just playing it around with friends, and that is what I remember. Of course, I'm a sucker for romancy kind of movies and things like that. So, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves with Kevin Costner, who, that song gets me all the time. It's got the Sean Connery in it.
I actually love that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that movie too. One of my very first date with a girl.
Yeah.
See that movie. There's nothing wrong with that, Pat. All right, let's toss it to Jason. What's his first memory and favorite iteration?
When I was little, and I mean, I think even before you were born or just after you were born, I had a set of Disney books that Mom and Dad used to read to me. It had 101 Dalmatians. It had Pinocchio. It also had the Robin Hood with the fox and the Disney version. So that was the first one I remember being read to me, and I really liked that. I love the little cartoon movie, but I have to go with the Prince of Thieves, the Kevin Costner, despite all its flaws. It's got Sir Sean at the end, man. It's good. That's my favorite.
All right. And that takes us to Delve in the Dark Web. Williams' first memory of Robin Hood, favorite version.
And you're going to be disappointed. I cannot think of a first memory of Robin Hood. The guy's a legend, and I know of the famous line of robs from the rich, gives to the poor. And why do I know that? I cannot tell you why I know that. I know it's been wedged in my head about Robin Hood forever and a day. And I've probably seen cartoon versions of it. I think maybe with you, possibly, I watched Robin Hood Men in Tights.
That's a good one.
So the guy he's been a legend enough that he's been on the silver screen. He has been lampooned, and he's a part of just American culture, even though he is very clearly a British character. So, I mean, he's somewhere in my head. Just can't remember exactly where.
I don't feel too bad because I was kind of racking my brain. In fact, I wanted to ask Jason, I feel like my first memory of it is one of those little big books like we had for Sherlock Holmes. I feel like maybe we had a Robin Hood one when we were kids.
I think we did. I think you're right.
All right. So I didn't make that up in my brain. That's probably where I first read it or looked at the cool drawings. And then I think like everybody else, the really first memory is probably that Disney version. And then my favorite version is probably the Kevin Costner one. He's got Morgan Freeman. It was one of the first ones to I've seen the Errol Flynn ones and all that stuff. They're good, but it was one of the first ones to really do that cool stylized action, slow motion, flaming arrow shots and whatnot. And I dug it. So, although I will say about, 5 or 10 years ago, they did a Robin Hood that didn't do well in the box office. It started the dude from The Kingsman. And they really modernized the action in it, and it's really quite entertaining. It's really fun to watch.
I remember that, and it seemed good. So I was kind of the preview seemed good, and the Kingsman guy is cool. I like that dude, so I'm surprised it didn't do well.
I don't it might have been too edgy for the classical crowd. And then a few years before that, there was a Russell Crowe version, which I saw, which was all right. But that was more like an origin story, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that was more like of a kind of a historical, like this is kind of where they got the idea from for Robin Hood, this cat. I did see the one with Arrington, whatever the Kingsman guy. And I think the reason why I like the Kevin Costner version better is because it walks that line between just the beginning of the 90s special effects, but it also really kind of kept its foot in the practical effects world as well.
Good point.
And stayed close to the original stories, where the other Kingsman guy one, although it was cool and I enjoyed it, it was really very much a kind of a modern action film. Nothing wrong with that, but
took some liberties. I track you on that. Well, there was a darn good Robin Hood discussion on our first episode. Don't expect that to happen ever again. I'm going to pass it to Pat for the show description.
Well, Jared, I'm glad you asked. Saturday Matinee Theatre is a retro review, sometimes index show, brought to you by the Longbox Crusade, where we will be taking you back to the past with some potentially overlooked retro awesomeness in the realm of television, movie serials, or films. Basically, if it's vintage and it's kind of forgotten, we're going to dig it up. On this episode, we will begin our indexing of all 39 episodes of the 1955 television series, The Adventures of Robin Hood. 1955's Robin Hood was produced by Sapphire Films, run by Hannah Weinstein and Sidney Cole. It starred Richard Green as Robin Hood and Alan Wheatley as the Sheriff of Nottingham. So take refuge in the forest, take off your quiver of arrows, get cozy around the fire, and let the gregarious music of the merry men whisk you away into the past. But don't forget, next time, pull out that letter from the king right away.
Okay, before we hand it over to Delvin for this episode's info, let's take a look, or in this case, a listen to a commercial that would have been playing at the time this episode was released back in 1955. This will help to get us in the right time frame of mind, if you will, and transport us back to the 50s. For this episode's commercial retro rewind, we have Chunky.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're standing by to interview the pilot of the first flying saucer ever to land on Earth. And here he comes. I beg your pardon, sir. Do all your people look like you?
Of course not. Most of them are homely.
I see. And what is the purpose of your visit?
To stock up on Chunkies. You're very nosy, aren't you?
Chunkies? You mean that delicious milk chocolate candy bar filled with crunchy cashews, sun-ripened raisins, and Brazil nuts?
And don't forget Chunky's special shape. Extra thick for extra flavor. You're a regular Chunky's information center. You know where I can get some fast?
Oh, sure. I always keep a supply handy when I go out on an interview. Be glad to share them with the illustrious pilot of a flying saucer. Here, let me fill your space helmet.
Pilot? Space helmets? Flying saucer? What are you talking? I'm a fisherman. I always keep my Chunkies in a cookie jar to keep them dry. Yes, sir. Chunkies. What a chunk of chocolate.
All right, what did you guys think about the Chunky? We will start with B-dubs, or BV, whatever.
BV. Sounds like underwear. All right, so I got two questions. Well, maybe three, but definitely two. Interesting commercial. I mean, it's from its time, but what made that reporter think a spaceship had landed is what I wanted to know. Like, there was no indication that a spaceship had landed. There was nobody else around. There were no other reporters. So where did they pull that from? Like, why was that the thing? Like, I just couldn't.
He's drunk.
I was just like, why is this guy standing here all alone on First Street with nobody else around? But my second thing is, where does his microphone go? So if you'll watch that again, like he's holding his microphone talking, and the next thing you know, microphone's gone.
I didn't notice that.
I didn't either. Huh. I just have to assume that he coated it with chocolate and ate it.
Because he's holding the Chucky box with both hands. And then the guy's like just pulling them out of there. And then he snatches one more. He pops his hand when he tries to get it back. He was such a playful little guy. And he dressed weird for a fisherman too. So I don't know what that was about. But I got to tell you, I do want some thick chocolate with some raisins and some Brazil nuts. It made me really hungry for some of those.
Yeah, I can't
remember that.
I don't know if I've ever had a chunky.
I don't think that's a thing anymore. But I started to go back and look and see where they quit making them or if they still made them. But I never got that far. But it definitely sounded interesting for sure.
Well, thanks for almost doing the research.
Well, that's my claim to fame is I'm almost there.
Jason, what'd you think of the chunky commercial?
Old people really like raisins, don't they? I mean,
I like raisins before you go any further.
We're not exactly young either, Dave.
I was thinking back to the day, like you get a snack from grandma, it's a box of raisins. Can you think of a candy bar today that has any raisins in it? I don't think anything with raisins in it would sell today.
Chocolate raisins.
Raisinets. Yeah, that's the only thing.
Those are awesome.
How many people eat raisinets? Come on.
Me. Well, I did before.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But I don't know. I just thought, I don't know. I don't want any raisins in my chocolate. I don't want any raisins.
All right.
I don't want any raisins that come out of a guy's trench coat either. Any chocolate come out of a guy's trench coat.
Yeah,
either.
this guy's looking all pervy coming up like, hey, you want some chocolate?
I always keep my chunky in my coat.
You want some chunky?
Let's just move along to Delvin. Williams. Have you ever had a chunky, and what are your thoughts on it?
Before that, like Dave, been meaning to talk to you about that. You might be wanted for exposure. Lay low for a little bit, dude. Just exposing that chunky like that. No, I have never had a chunky bar. I am with Jason on this. Raisins are gross and don't belong in candy. Like, why would you ever want a raisin in candy? It's gross.
It's kind of like an oatmeal cream pie. At least if you have the oatmeal. Wait a minute. Hear me out.
I will not. I refuse. I will not
you
hear
can at
you
least
out.
pretend it's healthy.
You
pretend there's a health quantity.
I don't want to pretend it's healthy. You know what? Everyone knows oatmeal cream pies aren't healthy, but they are delicious. Okay? Yeah, oatmeal cream pies are amazing. That's why I didn't want you to besmirch that with the raisin candy here. That's gross. And you know what? Maybe not. But I did some very, very, very quick research, Jared, because I know you would be interested and everyone else would be too. But invented by candy maker Philip Silversheen in the late 1930s, Chunky Candy Bar was first distributed by Silversheen's friend William Wrigley Jr. from Wrigley Gum Company. In 1984, this brand became a part of Nestle, and it's currently produced by Ferrara Candy Company, a subsidiary of Ferrero, probably Ferrero Rocher, like the chocolate makers.
I was thinking of Ferraro from For Your Eyes Only. Like, oh man, the guy was making some money on the side.
No, Ferrero, the chocolatier, sir.
So it's still out there.
I think so, yeah.
If only we knew somebody in the candy grocery business that could deep dive into that.
Yes, only we knew a guy who was connected.
Let's see if we can look something up.
It's unfortunately the guy who didn't do the research.
Yeah, look under G for gross candy.
I'm sending everybody Chunkies for Christmas.
I'll take them. Make sure you carry them around in your pocket before you send them out.
Your trench coat.
On our gift exchange live stream, everyone has to eat the Chunky on the live stream.
But Jared, I hear the Chunkies this year are better in Innsbruck.
Not in San Moritz. He's still working on this Ferrero joke, and I entertained it for some reason. Pat, weigh in on the Chunky, man. Be the last voice of Chunky.
All right. Well, I do remember eating some Chunky before. It's like a big brick of chocolate with stuff in it, and I loved it. And I'm a chocolate-covered raisin kind of guy, so I will eat that all day too. But in this commercial, the little guy, his voice sounded so familiar, like he would be doing voiceovers or like cartoon voices.
Maybe
I could just hear his voice. Little funny guy.
I agree. I was like, I've heard this guy before somewhere.
I'm like, I can't remember where. It had to be in like a cartoon or something where he's that nerdy kind of a guy voice. And so I really liked it. A little fun, quirky commercial.
Excellent. Delvin, takeovers.
Absolutely. Raisin candies are still gross. Oh, you probably did not mean that, right? You wanted me to read the episode info? No.
Whatever. Cleanse your palate and then read the episode info.
Okay. Episode 1 was titled The Coming of Robin Hood. The original air date is 25 September 1955. The director was Ralph Smart. The writer, Lawrence McClellan and Eric Heath. Guest stars Leo McKern as Sir Roger DeLisle, Bruce Seaton as Will Scatlock, and Alfie Bass as Edgar. As a reminder, all 39 episodes are available on YouTube. We highly encourage you to watch this episode before proceeding with this podcast, because not only is it just more fun that way, but Jared is about to give a synopsis about this episode, and then we're going to discuss it. So there are probably some spoilers heading your way. So if you haven't watched this episode, we recommend you pause here, go check it out on YouTube, and come back to join our discussion. Not only 26 minutes per episode, it's not a big time demand. For those of you watching along with us, we'd love to hear your insights. Don't forget to comment about the show on Twitter using the hashtag I'm following Robin Hood.
Hashtag I'm following Robin Hood.
Oh boy. Jason.
Hashtag I'm following Robin Hood.
Battle Van, would you like to chime in on this?
Hashtag I'm following Robin Hood from a safe distance because I'm not on Twitter right now.
And Pat, go for it.
Hashtag I'm following Robin Hood.
I don't even know if I want to go after that, but I'll go anyway. Hashtag I'm following Robin Hood. You see, Pat dropped the ukulele for me, but it's okay.
Cold dropped.
He did.
I'm sorry.
He did.
You want me to? I can.
No. Don't pick it up again. It's too late now. It's too friggin' late.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I will never forgive you, but it's okay. And with that, let's turn it over to Jared for the episode summary.
Robin of Locksley returns home from the Crusades to discover that Roger DeLisle has usurped his family's lands and castle. Even though he has to fight his way out of his own castle, Robin has had enough violence, so he attempts to regain his land through legal channels. What Robin doesn't understand is that the legal channels are stacked against him, especially since he has the favor of King Richard, which makes all the corrupt officials quite nervous. And Robin is already on their bad side because he stopped local law enforcement from maiming Edgar, a man who fell a deer in the forest earlier in the day, strictly to feed his starving family. The sheriff of Nottingham is crafty, though, and makes it seem as if Robin is to regain his family lands, when in reality, it's a trap to kill him. Robin susses out the trap, and the arrow that is meant for him instead kills DeLisle. And DeLisle's cousin wastes no time in framing Robin for the murder. So now Robin is an outlaw. He seeks refuge with the outlaws of Sherwood Forest. Luckily, Edgar, the man he saved from the sheriff's men earlier, vouches for him. The outlaws accept him under his new name, Robin of the Hood. Gentlemen, let's get into our highs, lows, what does our very first episode of Robin Hood. We are in Sherwood Forest. I'm looking at you, BWBV. What did you think of Robin Hood round one? You got to lead off the whole series. What you think?
Enjoyed it. It was good. It's good stuff. I like Robin Hood. I'm kind of a homer for it. One of my favorite legacy characters, I guess you would say. I actually voted for this before, a long time back, actually.
Oh, we got to talk about that.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Because I remember when we had the Twitter poll and we had the Patreon poll, the Patreon gets more weight and all that, and it was deadlocked with something else.
You called me.
And I literally called Dave and I was like, Dave, have you voted on the Patreon poll? And he's like, nah, I hadn't had time. And I was like, well, it closes out in like 2 hours. I said, we are deadlocked between this and this. And you're like, I don't remember what the other one was, but you're like, oh, I'm voting for Robin Hood.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was either. I was actually at Disney World. Like, I was in the middle of the Grand Floridian Hotel when you called me. Like, so
I got on his phone.
I got him on and voted right then. Yeah,
we are here because of Dave. I forgot to mention that at the front of the show.
Anyway, I think it was Twilight Zone that
Oh, did it beat Twilight Zone?
I think so. Possibly.
No, I would have went Twilight Zone probably. I don't think that's it because I've been all in for Twilight Zone. Like I tell those stories around the campfire, like those are big.
Well,
anyway,
next time, folks. Well, anyway, what's your first round high on this? Apparently, you had one coming.
No, I enjoyed it. There was a lot of things I liked about it. I'm gonna usually go where I go last. I'm gonna go to music. So I thought the music was kind of basic, but they really used it well. Like I can tell they didn't go out and hire a big person to score this thing, and they look like they just pull some pieces from here and there and did it. But I really thought that they added it in good. They put it in at the right moments. And then I couldn't help but think when the guy was strumming whatever he was strumming, I don't know if it was ukulele or not, but when he was doing the singing at the beginning, the first thing I thought was, man, that's the same way they brought in the Disney version. So I wonder if the Disney people got that from this. And so, but then the rest of the time I basically spent, and we all agree we like Prince of Thieves, I spent my time kind of juggling back and forth about some of the things that matched up to that movie and how they kind of pushed the plot along. But overall, I enjoyed it. And but the music, like I said, it was very basic. It wasn't like anything special, but I just felt like they used it really well, if that makes sense.
Nice. I like that observation. Very cool. With that, we'll pass it to Jason for his first round of Sherwood Forest and Robin Hood.
I really like how they introduced the character of Robin Hood. In that one episode, you really get to see the skills that really are attributed to the character. You get to see him use his archery in the scene. You get to see his prowess with the sword in a couple of battles there. You also get to see how clever he is as he foils the assassination attempt, as he outwits the outlaws that are going to ambush him near the end of the episode. But you also see the humility he has. He's a man of somewhat high birth, but yet when he goes and he sees the servants for the first time, you can see there's an affection, that genuine affection that he has for them and they for him. And when he goes to plead his case before the air quotes court, it's like us in the DMV. He's got to take a number and he gets sat down by, it looked like he got sat down by the Wicked Witch of the West or something.
He's kind of flung that little cape and sat down.
But he doesn't, he doesn't like try to use his power or authority. And in fact, when he gets called for, he's like, wait, but all these other people were ahead of me. And so you just get to see the character and all the traits and his fighting abilities. And I really liked how they just kind of laid all that out in the first episode in a unique way that kept the story moving, but made you familiar with Robin Hood coming out of the gate.
Excellent. Yes, I had definitely similar thoughts to that. But I won't take any of those thoughts just yet. We'll hear from some more people, and more people is Delvin.
Quick note about the music. It was actually by Pat's dad. Yep. He was a visionary.
Pat Senior. Good job, Pat Senior.
Yep. He's a musical genius.
Wait, that's Joe November. Don't do that.
Well, I mean, there can be two musical geniuses. Geni, actually. Anyway, not to use the P word, but I mean, I did not know Robin Hood's origin was kind of political. And as a veteran, I was like, oh, my man went to fight a war for his country and came back, and another man is in his house. Are you fucking kidding me? I wouldn't have been, he was reasonable. Like, I'm Robin of Locksley, and I do believe that you're in my quarters. No, I'd have kicked down the door. Will the sword might get out of my house, or I will kill you. Of course, this was to establish his character. He's like, yes, even though I have a little bit of nobility, that I fought the war for my country. I came back, and I am kindly asking you to leave my place that I don't have to ask you to leave. And then, like, between that and the government, assuming, that the government are the people who commissioned soldiers to go off to war to fight for the country, the government was going to screw them over. Like, completely, like, yeah, we're going to pretend like we care about this whole nobility thing, and then we're just going to off them, and you can continue with, man. Okay.
Worst VA ever.
Like, I was kind of floored by that. I did not know that Robin of Locksley was a soldier and then came back to his home or to his territory only to find that it was taken by someone who was a complete ogre and had no intentions of giving it back, and a government who really had no intention of honoring any of it. I was emotionally stirred in a way that I did not expect to be emotionally stirred.
Oh, interesting.
As all good art should do you.
Mm-hmm. I think it's kind of cool. I'm almost envious of Delvin, not knowing the full backstory, how he got that fresh take. But yeah, I thought it was kind of cool too, just to chip in another veteran's point of view, because remember that old dude was like, "You're gonna have to kill, man. You have to kill to get this back." And he was like, "Dude, I've had enough killing," which is why he was so chill. Again, the Robin Hood movie with Kevin Costner actually does a good job of showing you.
Yes, a little darker actually, because they got his dad
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just like, it's like, hey, I've seen some stuff, man, and I don't want to kill anymore. But they're like poking the bear. Oh, we're gonna take your house, Robin Hood. We're gonna make you go live in the woods. We're gonna try to kill you, Robin Hood. And I think they're gonna push him a little too far, but it's not my turn. It's Pat's turn.
Well, I'll take a few things. I mean, as Delvin did mention, they take his house, and he's like, "You see that picture there? That's my dad. Don't you see the resemblance of
that
me?"
one picture is me.
I'm like, this is my house. My picture's still, you got my picture still on the wall. What's going on here? And then the funny part too was, as Jason mentioned too, that Robin just having to sit there with everybody and then he's like twiddling his thumb. He's like looking at it, like, I got a hangnail. What do I got going on here? But what's really different about this one compared to what we have been watching over all 60 some episodes is this one's got some character building in it, some real life stuff to it. I think just way different than the other things we've been watching before. So it really pulled me in to it, even though I know the story. It's just how they delivered it in that 20 some minutes to get you really interested in what was going to happen and how does he become Robin Hood, and is he going to oust these guys right away, or what's really the story here? And it's just building and going to build and build. So kind of a soap opera-y kind of a feel I got to this that I like.
Yeah, I mean, he could have pulled a Rambo.
Yep, but he chilled.
Well, I was going to say what Pat was talking about there is the thing about this one is versus some of the other ones is even some of the Holmes episodes, you can kind of feel bad for the good guy or the bad guy sometimes, and you kind of sympathize. But this, I think, is completely designed where you're all on his side. Like, hey, he did everything right. He did everything he was supposed to. He was all fighting in a war. Like, he is just getting screwed just for pure greed and political reasons. And so it's very well defined. Like, this guy is going to be our hero. Like, they really set it up nice.
Mm-hmm. And I would have to say it's got to be hard to fight in that outfit with a cape on. You can see him kind of struggling with the cape a little bit just to get some room to.
Yeah, that was a lot of clothing, and it made him look thicker than what he was, because at the start when he started like climbing that wall, I'm like, I don't know if he's gonna be in shape.
Get up that wall.
So, I don't know if he's gonna be in shape to crawl up that wall. He might be tired after that, but he might need a snack.
So one of the things I wrote down, but I had to change it toward the end when he takes off, when he gets down to his regular clothes, was I was like, man, the war must not have been too tough. I mean, I'm fluffy, but that guy come back fluffy. Like, he was fine. It must have been like a cruise with a buffet on the way back or something.
Yeah, he went to the Battle of the Bulge
and lost miserably.
Oh, well, anyway, while you've got the mic, Dave, you get second round of high or low or what the.
I got a what the. So I did like the guy who played the sheriff when he went into the court. The Lyle was sitting there next to him. And did you see him use that Jedi mind trick on the sheriff of Nottingham, man? Like, he was talking, and then he goes, and don't forget his lands, and you forfeit your lands. And he did it like 3 times. I was like, man, he is Jedi mind tricking this guy. So, but that is probably, I won't say that my other favorite scene, but that was one of my favorite scenes because I really liked the way the sheriff, I liked him. But I really enjoyed that whole scene from the time he came in all the way up until he left. But that was one of the more intimate scenes. No action, just kind of, world building, if you will, or character building. But that was my second favorite scene, and I'm sure somebody else is going to pick the first one, so I didn't want to jump all over that one.
Well, we'll find out. If it still remains at the end, we'll come back to you. Jason.
I guess mine's kind of a what the. I was surprised at the amount of violence that was actually in this show. Of the shows that we've done so far, like Sherlock Holmes, they were always pretty careful to not show the actual violence. My favorite scene was the attempted assassination scene and how he was moving about and using the guy as a shield. It was like a little game of chess going on in there. And I really appreciated that. I didn't think that they were going to like show the arrow actually strike the guy and then show the other guy get his throat slit in that scene. I was like, this is really violent. Not a lot of blood or gore or anything, but it was very overt what happened. Whereas our other shows that we've watched, they've really tried to keep that more innuendo than showing it as blatantly on the screen as they did here. So I was a little surprised by that. Not a low by any stretch of the imagination, but a bit surprised.
And that, my friends, is my other favorite scene. That was the one I was going to go into.
Excellent. Excellent. Sounds like we're doing pretty good here for the first episode. Delvin, round 2, sir.
It's worth noting that Robin Hood won fights. So, I mean, he's already ahead of Beatman, right?
Did you pronounce that right?
What?
Is it Batman or?
No, I meant it. No,
he got it right.
I meant it.
Either Beatman or Batman.
Yeah, Beatman or Batman. Like, he is not Batman until he actually wins a doggone fight. And so it was nice to see that someone who has had a military level of training has come back and he's still able to use it. He was deft with his sword. He was deft with his fighting skills. Great. Awesome. But what I wanted to mention for my high was just another bit of that character building where, yep, a little bit of nobility, but also, yes, a soldier. And one of the things that he did where I'm not going to remember the gentleman's name who was being accosted about a third of the way through the show, but Edgar, he could have just let that man get freaking tortured, like, and had body parts pulled off, whatever, like these forest cops were going to do. And he didn't. He stopped it. And so it's kind of a cool moment where, yes, it showed that, like, I mean, because they were like, what are you going to do? You're going to attack all three of us. And he threw that piece of driftwood in the air and shot it with the bow, or excuse me, with the arrow, which showed his prowess. But the overall, like, he showed kindness to a stranger, to someone he didn't have to do anything to. He could have completely acted like he didn't see anything. And sure enough, at the end of the show, it paid off because he went to seek help. And like, they were like, yeah, we don't know you. You smell like nobility. We don't want you. And Edgar came in as like, no, this man saved my life. And so I like that it showed what a good man that Robin was. And then it paid off at the end too, in a way that he had no idea. And he had no idea expected. He just did a good deed for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, definitely cool. And like you said, he could have killed those dudes that were going to torture that guy. But he clearly was like, I don't want to hurt anybody, but this doesn't need to happen either. Like, he really toes a very heroic line. It'll be interesting to see if they keep this up. Pat?
Even on the opposite side of that, those cops or whatever you want to, that were going to torture Edgar, they were even too, it shows that not everybody is okay with what's going on, but they're like, well, we got to make a living too, so we got to do what the sheriff is telling us to do. I didn't, the guy even admitted, I really don't want to do it. It's not what I like doing, but he's got a family to feed too, just like Edgar did.
Sounded like a lot of Nazis, didn't he? I was just following orders.
Yeah.
He still snitched out Robin Hood when he was at the DMV there.
Oh, he certainly did. He certainly did.
Well, that's true too, but there are some people that may be able to, help Robin along the way, maybe down the road to, turn to Robin's side as needed, hopefully.
Well, what Delvin said was right on. Like, he helped that guy with no thought of any payback. He never knew he was going to need that guy later. Mm-hmm. And even though he had an appointment to go get his lands back and get that guy out of his house, he still took that deer to that guy's family. He took time out of his way to go do that before he went and took care of what he needed to do. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Pat, you want to bring us home?
I'll just go with the fighting in this. Very well choreographed, I thought. Always like a good sword fight, especially, medieval times like that is always kind of cool and fun to see. And you could see, like, he got even in like a stance. He had to, again, move his cape away so he could get in that, that parry or whatever kind of a stance that they call it that he got into. And I'm like, oh man, that's pretty cool. He's doing some fancy moves here. And, and these guys back then, they had to actually learn how to do this kind of stunt work and stuff like that. So hats off to them.
Definitely indeed. And that is our first discussion of the first episode of The Adventures of Robin Hood 1955. Anybody got anything burning still on their chest to get rid of before we move to fun facts? Battle
I always got one, man. I always got one more. You know that. So I did want to point out that DeLille is Mr. Billy Bad Boy while he's sitting there having dinner with everybody talking about getting the guy on his, his knees and cutting his ear off and all that stuff. But then when faced with a real challenge, like he screams like a little girl and he is of no consequence. So, I mean, that's another one of those character things. Like you expect that, but it's like Delvin was talking about him being a veteran and coming back. It kind of hits close to home when you think about it. That's how a lot of people are, when they're sitting around with their buddies. Well, let me tell you what I did 3 weeks ago when nobody was around to see it. But when things are happening right there in front of you, you just kind of fall to pieces. But I thought they did a really good job with his character. He was just a slimy used car salesman. No offense to used car salesman out there, but he just had that slimy grease ball. Like, again, just, I don't know, just that. It just made you feel yucky the way he was.
He even said, "Do you expect me to work for it?"
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, DeLille was kind of gloriously smarmy. Unfortunately, he's dead, so we're not going to be seeing him again anytime soon. And with that transition, let's get into the very first fun fact. There's a lot of fun facts around this show, so I'm metering them out. So Pat earlier on riffed on the little guitar playing. Or is it a lute? Or I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
Minstrel kind of guy at the beginning who sang Robin of Locksley, a knight bold and good, back from the Holy Wars becomes Robin Hood. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I look forward to hearing that on every episode. And just through a little digging, I discovered that dude is going to have a new lyric for every single episode. So it's like a little summary of the episode before it starts.
And they have one at the end.
Oh, yeah. And I just thought it was kind of neat because when I first watched it, I thought, oh, okay, well, we'll hear this little Lute story at the beginning of our episode. But no, it's going to change on each and every one. So hopefully they paid Lute Guy plenty of
money.
Lute.
Peanuts. Paid him in peanuts.
Because apparently he's going to keep on doing those. So I wanted to point that out here on episode 1 as kind of the fun fact. So, people who are watching along with us, which is basically us, can kind of keep an ear out and see what each subsequent one's going to be. Fun times. All right, let's get into our arrow ratings. All right, gentlemen, you can give this up to 5 arrows. 5 means you loved it. It hit your bullseye. 4 means it was very good. 3, it was just good. 2, it was okay. And 1, I did not like it. It moved into my house and took my stuff.
Disrespectful.
Big time. I got a funny feeling he's about to give him some help, though. But we'll see. So we will start just for funsies. You know what? We'll start with you, Pat. 1 through 5 arrow ratings. You get to go first this time.
Well, in doing some of our ratings in that, I've been getting to learn from Delvin. You got to have a baseline somewhere set, right? You can't go high off right away off the bat. Delvin, see, you're teaching me something, Delvin. You're teaching me. And so I'm going to give this a 3. I thought it was good. I want to go kind of between a high 3. But I want to start my baseline.
With Joe November earlier this evening.
Are you saying 3.5?
I
wish I could.
Joe was with us not just a few moments ago before we switched.
0.5s are lingering.
It's a very strong 3.
Wink. I got you. I got you. All right, Jason, you're going to sit on that 3. You're going to bump up. You're going to push it down. Where are you going with it?
I'm going to bump up. It was better than I expected. I expected good. And I really liked the character introduction. It was just very well written, very well done, very well performed. Like Pat's saying, I don't want to give it the highest mark coming out of the gate, but I feel confident giving this one a 4.
Excellent. All right, Delvin, what bar are you setting for Robin Hood based off this first one? We know it's not a 5. That's not the Delvin way. So what's it?
I was gonna say 5 until you ruined.
No, you're a liar.
I would have changed it, but I was gonna start off with an enthusiastic 5.
Bait and switch.
Right? I'm giving it a 4. I was emotionally stirred, and I was not expecting to be emotionally stirred. Like, seriously, when I saw how he was treated coming back, after service, it just hit chords, man. And I was I was mad for Robin for him being treated like that. It was just absolutely wrong. He remained civil until they forced him to be uncivil. He kept an air of nobility and civility throughout until he was forced to do it. And so I'm vested already. And so that's cool. I like that I am immediately vested into the storyline. It was good, and I'm looking forward to more. So it's a 4, and it's a very optimistic one.
I like it. Dave.
I mean, I don't want to empty the quiver of all my arrows on this first shot here, but I'm going to have to go with Delvin and Jason. I think it's a solid 4. That's not poo-pooing on Pat's 3. I mean, I hate to leave him over there on 3 Island Long.
It was a strong 3.
A strong 3. Well, I don't want to leave. I hate to leave Pat over there with his strong 3. But, I'm going to definitely go a 4. And I say this, and I think I allude to this just about every time we do this, but, it's a good show. I enjoyed the show. I watched it twice, but this makes it better. When we get together and talk about it, I would give it a 5 based on the conversation. But I'm just watching the show. I'm going to go a 4. But if I factored in the fun I have talking about it and reminiscing about it, I'd have to give it a 5. So, but 4 is my final answer.
Well said, sir. Well said. I am going to join Team 4. I understand that there's some vacancies on strong 3 Islands. I tell you what, Pat, the second you leave for war, I'm taking over strong 3 Island. It's going to be my island.
I figured I was starting low, and I was,
It's all right. No, it's perfectly fine.
Trying something new, but obviously it don't work out.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm going to give it a strong 4. Strong 4, Pat.
Okay, I see you. Strong. It was a strong 3.
Oh, I meant to mention this before, but I thought it was kind of cool that it was 1955. So did you notice how they were very proud of this show was flown to the United States via Pan American, or I don't remember what airline it was, but they were like,
it was
we put it on a plane and flew it over. They were really proud of that. So, but hey, at least it got here, right? Well, that is it for our scorings. Now it's time to get in the Sherwood Forest mailbag, which this is our first episode, so the mailbag's not going to hold a lot in it, but we're, of course, going to mention these special shout-outs to our Crusaders Club members, the fine folks who have joined our crusade. They get early access to special Longbox episodes, voting on show content, raffle prizes on our live streams, so much more. These are the folks reaping the benefits and giving some much appreciated support to the show.
Angelica Wolf.
Auburn Elvis.
Blast it or stash it.
Braxton Underwood.
Captain Entropy.
Clinton Robison.
Dave Collins.
Gary V.
Gerald Green.
Jason Keene.
Jeremy L.
Jim Jarman. I hope you like Jim Jarman too.
Joe Thomas.
John Watson.
Josh Strickland.
Candace Ward.
Kathy Bright, MVP.
Mark Ross.
Monstrous Mark Atherley.
Maxwell Traver.
Miranda W.
P.D. Devins.
Paul Hicks.
Rick from Jeff and Rick Present.
Rob Morgan.
Ryan Daly.
Samantha Maney.
Sean Urbanski.
Spidey 67.
Steve Cronin.
Tim Price.
Tony Pennington.
And last but certainly not least, Toronto Cop.
If we're missing one on our list, we apologize. Keep in mind we record these episodes well in advance of release, so if you're a recent edition, we'll add you soon. No worries if we missed you. Just send an email to contact@longboxcrusade.com. We'll get it straightened out. If you're asking yourself, hey, how do I get on this whole Crusaders Club thing? Simple. Go to patreon.com/longboxcrusade. For as little as $1 a month, you get access to the amazing world of Crusaders Club. Come and check it out. And if you don't have any extra scratch to throw in our 10, well, all you got to do is maybe write a review for our podcast, preferably a positive one. on your pod catcher of choice. And like I said, we don't have any feedback because this is our first time in Sherwood Forest. We certainly welcome it. Please drop us a line at Longbox Crusade, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Send us an email, contact longboxcrusade.com. We want to know what you think about the Sherlock Holmes show. And of course, you can call us at 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX. Pick up the phone. So please let us know what you thought of this. And Jason will probably repeat a lot of that here in the closing, but Jason, bring it home.
Well, that's it for this episode of Saturday Matinee Theatre. If you'd like to hear more from us in the realm of comic books, check out the Longbox Crusade. Pat, where can they find that?
Well, Jason, I'm glad you asked. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and all the podcasters out there, or at www.longboxcrusade.com. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube, all at Longbox Crusade. Back to you, Jason.
Thank you, Pat. And if you want to hear us on our track through all things James Bond, films, books, music, etc., check out On Her Majesty's Secret Podcast. Jared, where can they find that?
Well, Jason, I'm glad you asked. On Her Majesty's Secret Podcast can be found on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play, all those podcatchers. You can go to www.secretpodcast.podbean.com. You can check us out on Twitter at OHMSPod. And if you're big into Bond and Robin Hood, Sean Connery has been in 2 Robin Hood films. I recommend them both. You got to figure out what they are for yourself, though.
And if you'd like to chat with us online, we can be found at Delvin. Go ahead and kick us off.
Absolutely. You can find me at DEE_RAY1977 Pat.
Well, Delvin, I'm glad you asked. I can be found on the Twitter at Christatos01. Jared?
Well, Pat, I'm glad you asked. I can be found on all your social medias at Yard Sale Artist, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's all at Yard Sale Artist, or you can check out my artwares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. You might find a Robin Hood and Little John book page sketch that I did there. Disney style, but don't tell them because I don't want to get sued. Jason.
You can find me at Weasel Skull on Twitter or Jason Albrick on Facebook and Instagram. And Dave, are you on social media? Or are you still on the wagon these days? The battle wagon.
I'm still on the battle van. I'm still on sabbatical, so I am not out there. But if you want to just email me and say anything, I am at oldben1972@gmail. Drop me an email. I'll be more than happy to email you back. But unfortunately, I am still on the social media sabbatical.
All right. Well, it sounds like a good sabbatical. And thanks for joining us for this episode of Saturday Matinee Theatre. Restock your utility belt and call in the boy wonder, because our next episode will continue our journey through the 1943 Batman serial. We will get to see Batman get his butt whooped once again. And we will see you next episode for Chapter 10, Flying Spies. The meetup location, Gotham City.
Robin Hood, Robin Hood, Robin Hood. He called the greatest archers to a tavern on the green. They vowed to help the people of the king. They handled all the trouble on the English country scene and still found plenty of time to sing. Robin Hood, riding through the glen. Robin Hood, with his band of men. Feared by the bad, loved by the good.
This film has been flown to the United States via Pan American World Airways.
Outtakes.
So who didn't watch the commercial? Somebody didn't.
I've watched 2 commercials
Let me
because
tell you something. I'm all about the chunky, buddy. Don't be looking in my corner.
All right, that doesn't Pat.
Oh, chunky, good.
I mean, I've got some insights for that thing. I got some questions.
I was like, why didn't we do the Wild Root commercial? That's what at least the show that I watched, it was sponsored.
Yeah, it's sponsored by Wild Root, which I'm still not sure exactly what that is.
It's a cream.
Oh,
hair cream, buddy.
I watched the commercial.
I ordered some.
It's weed.
We'll get to Wild Root. I'm certain. Delvin, question.
I'm just going to be muted, but Jared, cut, but Jared, did you do it?
I was in middle school.
But did you do it?
You have to edit these, so that's perfectly.
I know. I couldn't help it. It was that important.
I understand. You got to commit to the bit.
And let the what?
I put that in there just for you.
Really, Jared? Really? Gregarious?
Gregarious.
Why didn't you go with melodious so we could have an alliteration there?
Too much for Pat. I mean, you can't give him alliteration and a big word. Come on. It's time to get to the Sherwood Forest mailbag. And yes, I misspelled forest in the script. It does not have 2 R's in it.
I am not a smart man, Jenny, but I know love.
I need some strum right there. Perfect. We out.
All right.
Play us out, Pat. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly.